I made this channel primarily to film myself creating art because whenever I was growing up, one of my favorite things to do was to sit and watch my grandma work. And I think that it's really calming and soothing to watch someone make things. And it's also really interesting, and you kind of pick up things without realizing it. And I realize that a lot of my videos aren't great, and I had been working on that. Um, at the moment, I haven't been posting a lot of videos because I've been becoming more and more ill. I have a lot of different health problems, but I've been working on those. So I thought I'd try to do audio recordings because it's a lot simpler and I don't have to do anything special. I can just kind of put the headset on and talk. These probably won't be that great either. Starting out, hopefully they'll get better. If I can manage it, I'll try to do better. I'm interested in a lot of different things, so hopefully I'll be able to talk about my interests. These will probably just be me talking. And that's something I can kind of do on my own. If you want to respond in the comments, that's cool. I may or may not respond. I have depression problems and anxiety, so I may or may not look at things. Um, way more problems than that. But anyways, I tend to try to be a pretty honest person. I don't always get things right, and if I mess up, I tend to remember it for a really long time. And I have learning problems. So I also have like different things, like coping mechanisms that I've kind of had to like learn. Like I have a really good memory most of the time, not all the time, for facts and stuff like that. I may not be able to supply sources for everything. If I talk about something, I will try to put a link to it or information about it in the description below. But yeah, I've just been needing to, I guess, share some of the information that I've learned and possibly some ideas and questions that I've thought of. I suppose this will end up being a bit like a journal in a way. So if you don't want to listen, that's cool. Of course, it's always optional. You don't have to listen to anything or watch anything on here. I guess that yeah, I'm interested in a lot of things. I'm an artist, or I try to be. I'm really interested in art. I'm also really interested in history because I like stories, and oftentimes history is kind of stories that we tell ourselves, and they get rewritten all the time, and with new evidence, they kind of change into different things, which is really interesting to me. I'm interested in learning about cultures, and I'm interested in like different hereditary traits and things. My mother is really into genealogy, so I know a ridiculous amount about my family history. And my dad was really into history as well. And so it kind of made it so that, like, my life, like, it was just easy to learn about history in my house. And I have a lot of siblings, and a lot of them are musicians and write poetry and draw and paint and all kinds of things. I'm probably not the most talented person in my family, but I probably, I don't know, because I think that we all feel the need to make art in general. I think that most of humanity has a need to both make and consume art. Um, because I think that there's a need in us for it. I think that it might come more easily to some people because they kind of might have grown up in an environment that, like, um, they could observe, or they had access to things, like we used to go to the art museum a lot whenever I was little, and my mom volunteered there, and she kind of worked the reception desk, and so we would often be playing uh, in, like, the sculpture park, and um, be walking around looking at the artwork and stuff. This was when I was really, really little, and a few of my older brothers were into doing theater, so I ended up being like an extra in a lot of plays, which I was not, like, super happy about. Like, I didn't mind being on stage, but, like, I can't remember lines very well, and I never have. Not that I had that many as a little bitty kid, but um, I just, like, whenever you go on stage, you kind of get a hit of adrenaline, and, like, it often makes you forget what you're supposed to be doing. And uh, and then if you do that several times, like, say you have, like, several performances, then that adrenaline kind of makes you tired after a while, because you kind of can't stay, like, you can't sort of, like, use that much energy and it not take a toll at some point. Um, which is weird that I remember all this stuff, but like I said, I have a pretty good memory for most things. Um, I don't always remember what I ate yesterday, but, like, your memory will focus on different things. Um, let's see. I really, I'm really interested in ideas and questions. I really like questions. I think that oftentimes people aren't asking the right questions, and before you can even possibly get to an answer that will be useful, you have to have a really useful question. And let's see. I'm also, like, my family is, like, military on my dad's side, and um, my grandpa, my father's father, he was really interested in, like, trying to get us to understand things without having to, like, tell us them. So he would ask me why I was doing things, and that really forced me at a really young age, like, probably like a toddler, to think about my actions and the consequences of my actions and stuff. And oftentimes I would just tell him that I was enjoying myself and that's why I was doing it, and then he'd just tell me to stop. But uh, like because of that, I probably have thought about things differently throughout most of my life, and I think that like he was really interested in like planning and strategy and stuff, and it's not like he was a general or anything. He was like an NP, and he did something else in an office. I can't remember what it was though. But he was really interested in being sort of like very intelligent, and he wasn't particularly good with people. Like he didn't understand people, but he was really like an avid learner, and education was really important to him, and he sort of instilled that in all of us. And I think I kind of paid attention more because people didn't usually talk to me, but he did. Like I was by no means like anyone's favorite kid. I was very like hyper and loud and aggressive, and like I was always like interested in weird things, like I like bugs and stuff. Um, but yeah, I think that just by asking a kid like what they're doing and why they're doing it really sort of changes the way that their mind works, because most people don't think about that as adults even. So like for most of my life I've asked myself like what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And like it's okay to just be doing it because it makes you happy, you know. But if it hurts you in the long run, then like, you know, you have to weigh that against like the happiness that it might make you feel in the short term. And like because my grandpa like did make me think that way, like I think that I've spent a lot of my time uh trying to be wise. And that could also be because I'm kind of into like mythology and stuff, and particularly Greek mythology. And since my grandma did like fiber art sort of things, she like crocheted and she sewed, she like quilted and stuff. And my mom also sewed. She made like costumes for my brother's plays, and she used to make my brother's clothes all the time. And since I'm the youngest, like she didn't make that many of my clothes because she was busy, you know, dropping everybody off at different things and stuff. But because of that, like I was kind of drawn to the Greek goddess Athena, who she's the goddess of handcrafts and of war and like weaving, and um really she's kind of the goddess of forethought, like of planning, right? So she's the goddess of wisdom because the wise plan. And she was the goddess of war, but she was more of strategy, right? Because like Ares was not about strategy, he was all about like destruction. And her mother actually was I believe her name meant wisdom, and whenever Zeus swallowed her mother whenever she was pregnant with her, um he gained wisdom, and then of course Athena was born out of his head. Anyways, I will talk about Greek mythology and mythology in general. I'm sure, you know, to like bore you to death. Um, uh, I'm really interested in fairy tales. I will probably do a thing about that. Um, but yeah, like I just kind of grew up in a creative household where like, because we live out in the country, at least we do now. Like whenever I was little and we went to the art center all the time, we lived down the street from the art center. But because we live out in the country, we kind of have to like, or I kind of had to find ways of amusing myself. And because I have learning problems, a lot of my childhood I couldn't read. Um, I actually didn't learn to read really until I was like 18. Was whenever I really um, kind of read my first book without pictures, because I started out reading comic books and Japanese manga, and I'd really like to thank the librarian that loaned me ElfQuest, because that was the first thing that I really enjoyed looking at the pictures on the cover of like sci-fi and fantasy novels and stuff. So she loaned me her personal copies of ElfQuest, and it was the first like comic book that I looked at the pictures and tried to guess what the words were, and that can be really helpful if you have like dyslexia, or reading dyslexia. Um, and so like I'd really like to thank her. I don't know her name, but like she worked um on the military base, or the Air Force base, um uh in Arkansas. So if she ever hears this, thank you, because it helped me realize that it could be possible at some point that I might be able to work my way up to learning to read, because I had become so frustrated not being able to read, because I love stories. I love stories. Um, and I discovered audiobooks whenever I was younger, and I would listen to like fairy tales on audio, and I'd listen to like all kinds of weird books because I have learning problems, which I will probably go over some of that later too. Um, I sort of got really into different literature and stuff, and I like watching British documentaries. I'm really into stand up, like mainly British stand up. Um, I really love like Eddie Izzard because he has a lot of history jokes. And one of the things that I really loved about Monty Python was um, the sort of casual history jokes that there would be. And the more that I learned about history, the more jokes that I got. And of course, Blackadder, loads of history jokes. Um, I may do an episode that's all about like great historical comedy shows. Um, but anyways, I'm kind of a weird person, I guess. But I suppose that we're all a little weird. And I've never been sort of capable of fitting in, even though like as like a person from a big family, you kind of don't want to fit in because that means that people forget about you, and like you kind of become one of a whole, right? So you're not you, you're like the family, right? And uh that is a complicated situation whenever you're from a large family. So you kind of are desperate to not be like everybody else, but in some ways I kind of couldn't be anyway because of things like having dyslexia and anxiety and depression and all kinds of things. Um, but I've always been really interested in things that like a lot of people around me weren't interested in, and I am sort of, I can kind of be like aggressive about like knowing things because I have a bit of an inferiority complex, I guess. I think that whenever you kind of grow up not being able to do something, you really feel the need to prove yourself, you know? And I can, like, I can get, you know, upset if people question, like, my intelligence or my, I guess, sort of, um, I don't know. I don't know how you'd put it. I can't remember the word right now. But yeah, kind of weird, and you'll probably, if you listen to these, I guess you'll get to know me more with each one of these I do. So maybe I'll do more, hopefully. Um, anyways, I guess that, you know, stay safe, make good decisions, do what's right for you. Talk to you later. Bye.